George, 68, never bothered anyone. Knew the Dewey Decimal System by heart. Read stories at Children's Hour. But that day, people saw his old Ranger tattoo for the first time. Welcome to Silent Valor Stories. Before we begin this tale of quiet protection and hidden warriors, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And if you believe real heroes often hide in plain sight, hit that subscribe button. Hartford Public Library stood on Main Street like it had for 90 years. Red brick and tall windows, a sanctuary of stories in Connecticut's capital. George Thompson had been part of those walls for 15 years, as much a fixture as the card catalogs nobody used anymore. Tuesday afternoon, 3:47 p.m. The children's section hummed with post-story time energy. Parents gather backpacks and jackets while kids beg for just one more book. George moved through them like a ghost, straightening chairs, collecting forgotten crayons, his movements careful and deliberate. "Mr. George!" 8-year-old Emma Chen waved from her favorite corner, surrounded by colored pencils and half-finished drawings of dragons. "Look! I gave him rainbow scales!" George knelt beside her, joints protesting slightly. "That's beautiful, Emma. Dragons need color in their lives, too." "Mommy says I can finish while she uses the bathroom. Is that okay?" "Of course. I'll be right here shelving books." Emma's mother touched George's shoulder gratefully before heading to the restroom. She'd been coming here since Emma was 3. Trusted the old librarian completely. Everyone did. George was safe, predictable, harmless. The men entered at 3:52 p.m., 3 of them, moving with purpose that had nothing to do with literature. Hooded despite the warm September afternoon. Eyes scanning, dismissive of the books, focused on faces. George's hand stilled on the spine of a picture book. "Where's Maria Chen?" The leader's voice cut through the peaceful atmosphere like a blade. Parents instinctively pulled children closer. A mother near the door slipped out with her toddler. George stepped behind his book cart, watching. "She owes Rico money. Real money. We know she comes here." The second man noticed Emma in the corner, recognized the dragon drawing from a photo on Maria's social media. He nudged the leader, pointed. "There's her kid." What happened next took exactly 47 seconds. The leader crossed to Emma in 4 strides, grabbed her arm. "Your mommy needs to learn about consequences." Emma's scream pierced the air. George moved. Not the shuffle of an old man, not the careful gait of someone with arthritis. This was different, purposeful, efficient, trained. His cardigan came off in one motion, revealing forearms that belonged to someone who'd done more than shelve books. On his left arm, faded but unmistakable, was a tattoo, the distinctive scroll of the 75th Ranger Regiment, with wings and a sun, wrapped in a banner reading, "Rangers lead the way." "Let her go." His voice had changed too. Still quiet, but with steel underneath that made everyone in the room freeze. The leader laughed. "Back off, Grandpa. This isn't your—" George's hand shot out, striking the pressure point in the man's elbow with surgical precision. The grip on Emma released instantly. In the same motion, George swept the man's leg, using his own momentum against him. "Face, meet carpet." The second man rushed forward, throwing a wild punch. George stepped inside the arc, deflected with his forearm, and drove his elbow into the attacker's solar plexus. As the man doubled over, George helped him to the floor with what looked almost like kindness, if you ignored the tactical efficiency. The third man pulled a knife. "Don't," George said simply. The knife wielder lunged. George's hand found the nearest weapon, a hardcover copy of the Webster's Unabridged Dictionary. 2,347 pages of linguistic authority. He didn't throw it. He used it as a shield, blocking the knife thrust, then brought it down on the man's wrist. The knife clattered away. A sweep, a controlled descent, and the third man joined his companions on the library carpet. George kicked the knife under a bookshelf and looked around the children's section. "Emma, sweetheart, come here." The little girl ran to him, buried her face in his chest. He held her with one arm while keeping his eyes on the three men groaning on the floor. "Sarah!" He called to the young librarian frozen behind the circulation desk. "Call 911. Tell them we need police and EMS. 3 suspects detained." He paused. "And maybe get some of those zip ties from the supply closet." While Sarah made the call with shaking hands, George knelt beside Emma. "You're safe now. Those were bad men, but they can't hurt you anymore." "How did you do that, Mr. George?" "I used to be a soldier, a long time ago. Sometimes soldiers become librarians, but we never forget how to protect people." The Hartford police arrived in 6 minutes. By then, George had secured the 3 men with zip ties typically used for bundling donated books, had given Emma back to her sobbing mother, and was calmly filling out an incident report. Officer Martinez, a veteran himself, took one look at the scene, the tattoo on George's arm, and the tactical precision of the takedown. "Sir, that's a Ranger scroll." "It is." "When did you serve?" 73 to 97. 3 tours in Vietnam at the tail end, Grenada, Panama, Desert Storm, Somalia. He said it like listing library classifications. "Mogadishu?" George's eyes flickered. "I was there." Martinez knew better than to push. Some stories didn't need telling. "And now you're a librarian." "Now I'm a librarian." George rolled his sleeve back down, covering the tattoo. "If you need anything else, I'll be in the biography section. We got a new shipment of military histories I need to process." The security footage leaked within hours. By evening, Librarian Army Ranger Saves Child was trending. News vans appeared outside the library. George ignored them all, leaving through the staff entrance at exactly 6 p.m. like always. But the story wasn't over. That night, Emma's father appeared at George's small apartment. David Chen was also a veteran, Marines, Afghanistan. He stood at the door holding a bottle of good whiskey and fighting back tears. "You saved my daughter." "Just did what needed doing." "Can I come in?" Marine to Ranger. They sat in George's living room, sparse but clean. One wall covered in bookshelves. David noticed the photos tucked between volumes. Young men in Rangers gear, desert backgrounds, some faces crossed out in black. "Lost a lot of them," George said, following his gaze. "Somalia, and other places. You know how it is. You come home, but part of you doesn't." They drank in silence for a while. "Why a librarian?" David finally asked. George considered the question. "After I got out, I tried a lot of things. Security, consulting, teaching tactical courses, but it all felt like pretending the war wasn't over. Then my wife died. Cancer, not combat, and I needed—" He paused. "Quiet, purpose without violence. Came here one day to return her books. They were hiring. Been here ever since. But today was different." Kids are always different. George's eyes went distant. Mogadishu, 93. We were extracting a diplomat's family. Found a school that got caught in the crossfire. Dozen kids, about Emma's age, terrified. We weren't supposed to stop, but he shrugged. Got them all out. Career almost ended over that decision. Worth it. Thank you, David said, for then and now. George raised his glass slightly. Rangers lead the way. The next morning, George arrived to find the library surrounded by media. He parked 2 blocks away, entered through the loading dock. Inside, Director Williams was waiting. George, I had no idea about your background. You never asked. I never told. Didn't seem relevant to organizing the military history section. The city wants to give you a commendation. The media wants interviews. The Rangers Association called. No. George, with respect, Director, I've got story time at 10. Unless you're firing me, I need to prepare. We're reading Where the Wild Things Are today. William smiled. Firing you? George, half the parents in Hartford want to canonize you. The other half want to hire you as a bodyguard. I'm a librarian, that's all. And he was. For the next weeks, despite the attention, George maintained his routine. Arrived early, organized books, helped patrons find resources, read to children. The only change was the number of veterans who started visiting. They'd find him in the stacks, share a nod, sometimes a story. He helped them all, finding resources for benefits, recommending books on transition, sometimes just listening. Emma came every Tuesday with a new dragon drawing. The dragons now wore little ranger tabs. 3 months later, at the library's Veteran Appreciation event, Director Williams asked George to speak. He declined, as expected, but agreed to stand with the other veterans being honored. As the photographer positioned them, Emma ran up and hugged George's leg. Mr. George, Mommy says you're a hero. George knelt to her level. You know what a hero is, Emma? She shook her head. Someone who helps when help is needed. You do that every time you're kind to someone. That makes you a hero, too. But I can't fight bad guys like you. Fighting is the smallest part of it. The biggest part is caring enough to act. You care about your drawings, your mom, your friends. That's heroism, too. As the photographer snapped the picture, the old librarian, the little girl, and a room full of quiet warriors, George allowed himself a small smile. He'd found his place. Not in the violence he'd mastered, but in the peace he protected. The 75th Ranger Regiment's motto was, Rangers lead the way. George had learned that sometimes the way forward was through silence, service, and stories. Sometimes the most powerful thing a warrior could do was read picture books to children, ensuring they grew up in a world where dragons had rainbow scales and libraries were safe. Because real heroes don't need recognition. They just need purpose. And George Thompson had found his between the shelves of the Hartford Public Library, where he stood watch over different treasures now. Not strategic positions or diplomatic assets, but the minds and hearts of children who would never need to see what he had seen. That was worth more than any medal. So now I ask you, how many warriors walk among us as teachers, librarians, counselors? How many protect and serve in ways we never notice until danger appears? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you know a quiet hero in your community. Because at Silent Valor Stories, we believe the greatest strength is often the gentlest touch, and sometimes the best warrior is the one who makes you forget they ever were one. Until next time, remember, heroes are everywhere. Sometimes they're wearing tactical gear. Sometimes they're wearing cardigans and reading glasses, organizing picture books in perfect Dewey Decimal order. Thank them all.